Valley Church. Hope for those who have given up on church.
Welcome. I'm really excited about this week's AppGroup. The AppGroup lesson for this week is going to focus on Jerry's third point from his revenge sermon, where he was talking about don't turn away. He talked about being available to those in need, to be able to give when you can, to become a generous person when it's difficult or you're dealing with difficult people. And we want to take a little deeper look at that. I want you to remember, though, our goal here is to become more like Jesus. And when Jesus was asked to give, he always gave. It wasn't always what he was asked for, but he always found a way to give. So let's take a look at it. And we're going to look at Luke 6:34 to 36. So you can turn in your Bible there, and it says, "And if you lend money only to those who can repay you, why should you get credit? Even sinners will lend to other sinners for a full return. Love your enemies. Do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be great, and you will be truly acting as children of the Most High. For he is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. You must be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate." This is Jesus' teaching on loving your enemy. This is a concept that we all struggle with. How do you love your enemy? An enemy is someone who has set themselves against you. The natural human reaction is to respond in kind, where you set yourself against them. But Jesus says, no. This is about figuring out a way to win them back, win them to Christ. It's about making God's kingdom advanced and storing up treasure for yourself in heaven. Take a look at verse 35. It says to lend without expectation. In other words, if you give money to someone, if you lend money to someone, especially an enemy, you shouldn't expect the money back. This is the whole idea, is finding a way to do good for them. Find a way to bless them. Find a way to catch them off guard so that they don't look at you as an enemy any longer. And when we lend without strings attached, even the string of being repaid, there's all kinds of benefits that happen for us. And one of the big benefits is our heart is clear. When we give something or we lend something or let's say we do something for someone and we don't expect anything back, if we get something back, well, that's bonus points. It's a good way to keep your heart clear. It's a good way to not be encumbered by you owe me. Man, if you go through life with that idea of you owe me, you're defeating the purpose. You don't understand what Christ did. God didn't owe us anything, and yet he gave his son. That's the same principle we have to apply to ourselves. These people are our enemies, maybe, but we give to them so that we can have relationship. And we want that relationship so that they might know God. And here, I want to make it clear, you can only give what you have. If you don't have something to give, you can't give it. If someone comes up to me and says, "Can you loan me $100?" and I don't have $100, how can I ever loan that? What I need to figure out is, how can I help them? You know, this goes back to where Jesus always gave when he was asked. He didn't always give what he was asked for. So if I can't give you the $100, what can I give you? How can I find a way to be part of your life without just turning you away and acting like you don't matter? That's incredibly important. How can I connect with you? How can I make you part of my life? How can I make that happen? And when I do that, these verses say that there is a great reward from heaven for me. That's in verse 35. We've got to understand that if we go through life looking for a reward from people, Thank you for lending me that money. Here it is back. And, getting ourselves built up from other people, we're always in for disappointment. But if we can focus and make sure that we're looking for our reward from God and not man, we will always be blessed, because God never fails to reward. If we follow his word, if we follow what he's calling us to do, he always rewards. And listen, God's rewards have eternal value. And what I mean by that is, not only does he reward you for today, not only does he reward us for today, in our daily lives, but there's also a reward waiting for us in heaven. For years, I always thought the reward for a good life, or the reward for obedience, was I got to go to heaven. No, I get to go to heaven because I have a relationship with Jesus. But the Bible tells us that there is a reward waiting for us in heaven. In other words, there's something better than heaven. Because the reward is something more than. So if there is a reward in heaven, that means whatever that is makes heaven better. I got to be honest, I don't understand that. I don't get it, but I'm looking forward to that reward. I want to become a person who looks for my reward from God. I want to be a person who cares enough about people, whether they're my enemies or not, that I am focused on the reward from heaven. We need to be focused on that. And when we do those things, when we bless our enemies, as he says here in this, love your enemies. Boy, that's a whole nother level. I can picture getting along with my enemies a little easier. Being nice to my enemies is the next level. But Jesus says, I'm to love my enemies. And when I do that, I'm acting like, or I am imitating God. Because it says here, when I was reading this, I was like, let me read that again, because I'm not sure that's what it says. But listen, it says, he is kind to the unthankful and wicked. Right here, Jesus says that God, our Father, is kind to the unthankful and wicked. And I'm to imitate him. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be kind to the unthankful and wicked. But think about it. Before I got saved, I was unthankful and wicked. And God didn't judge me in that moment. He was kind to me so that I might come to him. And if we want to influence people, if we want people to be changed by our lives so that we can point them to Christ, we have to love our enemies. We have to be kind to them. We have to be more concerned about their souls than whatever perceived wrong has happened to us. We need to be kind. Now listen, that doesn't mean that wickedness is rewarded. That's not what I'm talking about here, because there will be a day when God judges the wicked. But that's not for us to discern. That's in the future. That's between God and the wicked. We have to find ways to get ourselves into these people's lives. We've got to love these people enough to be in their lives. We want to win them to our side so that they might know Christ. He goes on and he finishes up saying, you must be compassionate just as your Father is compassionate. And compassion is the ability to see the situation from the other person's eyes. It's putting yourself in that place. And who knows who we would be if we had to go through the same situations or the same life that our quote-unquote enemies had to go through. We might be worse off. You know, sometimes when I have a problem with people or an issue with people, once I get to know them, I go, wow, they are incredibly healthy for what they had to go through in their lives. All of a sudden, I understand where they're coming from. I understand where their hurt, their bitterness, their anger, their pain is coming from, and I am able to have compassion for them. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, they may have done me wrong, but how can I get into their lives? How can I get them some healing? How can I make that happen? We're to give grace the same way we were given grace. God gave every one of his children grace. The only reason we can have a relationship with Christ is because God extended grace to us. And we need to extend that same grace, that same compassion that we were given. This is an incredible teaching. This is an incredible idea of loving our enemies. I think that would be the first step for me personally. I have to stop calling them my enemies. They can call me enemy, but I have to begin to look at them differently. I have to begin to question myself and say, wait a minute, I don't want them to be my enemies. They're my target for compassion. They're no longer my enemy. They're my target for compassion. How can I show them compassion? And as we go through this, in a few moments, you're going to sit and you're going to discuss some questions that we've put together and on how to apply this to our lives. How do we become people who are able to love their enemies? And the only way any of us get to do that ultimately is when we remember how much love God poured out for us. When we understand God's love for us, and his compassion for us, and how we were once his enemies, and even in our unthankfulness and wickedness, he loved us. All of a sudden, we're able to do that for our enemies. All of a sudden, we're able to love those who we thought were unlovable, we thought had set themselves against us. So I hope you really enjoy your time together. I hope you enjoy the questions you're going to go. Take some time. Be honest with these questions, because I asked some hard questions. Be honest, because there is a great reward for you from heaven if you can do this. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Thanks for being part of an app group. God bless. See you next time.